Nations do not die from invasion, they die from internal rottenness. We the people are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. Great men are ordinary men with extraordinary determination. The most reliable way to predict the future is to create it. I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. Corporations have been enthroned and an era of corruption in high places will follow, and the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic is destroyed. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. You must remember that some things legally right are not morally right. When you make it to the top, turn and reach down for the person behind you. If you have never failed, you have never lived. How many legs does a dog have if you call the tail a leg? 4. Calling a tail a leg doesn't make it a leg. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. You cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot lift the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. In the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. The philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next. It is a sin to be silent when it is your duty to protest. Life is hard, but so very beautiful. I walk slowly, but never backwards. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Be sure you put your feet in the right place, then stand firm. You cannot build character and courage by taking away people's initiative and independence. You cannot help people permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves. The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time. I am a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is to bring them the real facts. Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. A nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. Teach the children so it will not be necessary to teach the adults. Any people anywhere, being inclined and having the power, have the right to rise up and shake off the existing government and form a new one that suits them better. This is a most valuable, a most sacred right, a right which we hope and believe is to liberate the world. If we exchange $1, we both have $1 each. But if we exchange one good thought, we both have 2 good thoughts. The friend is one who has the same enemies as you have. Any society that takes away from those most capable and gives to the least will perish. When arguing with a fool, make sure the opponent isn't doing the exact same thing. This country, with its institutions, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it, or exercise their revolutionary right to overthrow it. Character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, the tree is the real thing. What kills a skunk is the publicity it gives itself. Kindness is the only service that will stand the storm of life and not wash out. Violence begins where knowledge ends. The trouble with too many people is they believe the realm of truth always lies within their vision. What are you going to do for a face when the baboon wants his ass back? If there is anything that links the human to the divine, it is the courage to stand by a principle when everybody else rejects it. Whatever you are, be good one. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Commitment is what transforms a promise into a reality. Commitment is the stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things. It is the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. I do not boast that God is on my side. I humbly pray that I am on God's side. Politicians are a set of men who have interests aside from the interests of the people and who, to say the most of them, are, taken as a mass, at least one long step removed from honest men. I am busily engaged in the study of the Bible. I believe it is God's word because it finds me where I am. When I left Springfield, I asked the people to pray for me. I was not a Christian. When I buried my son, the severest trial of my life, I was not a Christian. But when I went to Gettysburg and saw the graves of thousands of our soldiers, I then and there consecrated myself to Christ. Kindness is the only service that will stand the storm of life and not wash out. It will wear well and will be remembered long after the prism of politeness or the complexion of courtesy has faded away. You can tell the greatness of a man by what makes him angry. You can tell the greatness of a man by what makes him angry. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. 'Tis better people think you a fool, then open your mouth and erase all doubt. Character is the tree, reputation is the shadow. A statesman is he who thinks in the future generations, and a politician is he who thinks in the upcoming elections. Be with a leader when he is right, stay with him when he is still right, but leave him when he is wrong. A day spent helping no one but yourself is a day wasted. I do not think much of a man who is not wiser today than he was yesterday. You can have anything you want if you want it badly enough. You can be anything you want to be, do anything you set out to accomplish if you hold to that desire with singleness of purpose. I believe the Bible is the best gift God has ever given to man. All the good from the Savior of the world is communicated to us through this book. Nothing is more damaging to you than to do something that you believe is wrong. It often requires more courage to dare to do right than to fear to do wrong. Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. History is not history unless it is the truth. You can please some of the people some of the time, all of the people some of the time, some of the people all of the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time. Freedom is not the right to do what we want, but what we ought. Hypocrite, the man who murdered his parents, and then pleaded for mercy on the grounds that he was an orphan. Let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity, swear by the blood of the Revolution, never to violate in the least particular the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others. We have been preserved, these many years, in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power, as no other nation has ever grown. But we have forgotten God. We have forgotten the gracious hand which preserved us in peace, and multiplied and enriched and strengthened us, and we have vainly imagined, in the deceitfulness of our hearts, that all these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming and preserving grace, too proud to pray to the God that made us. Behind the cloud the sun is still shining. Those who are ready to sacrifice freedom for security ultimately will lose both. If this country is ever demoralized, it will come from trying to live without work. Every man is born an original, but sadly, most men die copies. If you trust, you will be disappointed occasionally, but if you mistrust, you will be miserable all the time. A child is a person who is going to carry on what you have started. He will assume control of your cities, states, and nations. He is going to move in and take over your churches, schools, universities, and corporations. The fate of humanity is in his hands. I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. The money power preys on the nation in times of peace and conspires against it in times of adversity. It is more despotic than monarchy, more insolent than autocracy, more selfish than bureaucracy. It denounces, as public enemies, all who question its methods or throw light upon its crimes. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot establish sound security on borrowed money. You cannot keep out of trouble by spending more than you earn. We live in the midst of alarms, anxiety beclouds the future, we expect some new disaster with each newspaper we read. The strength of a nation lies in the homes of its people. The best way to destroy an enemy is to make him a friend. Faith is not believing that God can, but that God will. I will say, then, that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races, that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people. I can see how it might be possible for a man to look down upon the earth and be an atheist, but I cannot conceive how a man could look up into the heavens and say there is no God. We seek not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow those who would pervert it. I would rather be a little nobody than to be an evil somebody. Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties. Elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. You cannot fail unless you quit. Commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. To stand in silence when they should be protesting makes cowards of men. The ballot is stronger than the bullet. Most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Our Republican system was meant for a homogeneous people. As long as blacks continue to live with the whites, they constitute a threat to the national life. Family life may also collapse, and the increase of mixed-breed bastards may someday challenge the supremacy of the white man. As a nation, we began by declaring that all men are created equal. We now practically read it: all men are created equal, except Negroes. When the know-nothings get control, it will read all men are created equal, except Negroes, and foreigners, and Catholics. When it comes to this, I should prefer emigrating to some country where they make no pretense of loving liberties to Russia, for instance, where despotism can be taken pure, and without the base alloy of hypocrisy. If you once forfeit the confidence of your fellow citizens, you can never regain their respect and esteem. It is true that you may fool all of the people some of the time. You can even fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. Speech at Clinton, Illinois, September 8, 1854. There are no bad pictures, that's just how your face looks sometimes. And whereas it is the duty of nations as well as of men to own their dependence upon the overruling power of God, and to recognize the sublime truth announced in the Holy Scriptures and proven by all history, that those nations only are blessed whose God is the Lord. Nothing is stronger than gentleness. Every man's happiness is his own responsibility. The best way to get a bad law repealed is to enforce it strictly. If you understand what you're doing, you're not learning anything. Let the people know the truth, and the country is safe. Nothing in this world is impossible to a willing heart. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other. Should my administration prove to be a very wicked one, or a very foolish one, if you, the people, are true to yourselves and the Constitution, there is little harm I can do, thank God. In regards to this great book, I have but to say it is the best gift God has given to man. All the good the Savior gave to the world was communicated through this book. But for it we could not know right from wrong. All things most desirable for man's welfare, here and hereafter, are found portrayed in it. We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word we do not all mean the same thing. With some the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself, and the product of his labor, while with others, the same word many mean for some men to do as they please with other men, and the product of other men's labor. Here are two, not only different, but incompatible things, called by the same name, liberty. And it follows that each of the things is, by the respective parties, called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny. You can't make a weak man strong by making a strong man weak. No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could do it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would do that. I have here stated my purpose according to my official duty, and I intend no modification of my oft-expressed personal wish that all men, everywhere, could be free. The shepherd drives the wolf from the sheep, for which the sheep thanks the shepherd as his liberator, while the wolf denounces him for the same act as the destroyer of liberty. Plainly, the sheep and the wolf are not agreed upon a definition of liberty. If once you forfeit the confidence of your fellow citizens, you can never regain their respect and esteem. There is no greater injustice than to wring your profits from the sweat of another man's brow. Whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on impersonally. You cannot have the right to do what is wrong. I had been told I was on the road to hell, but I had no idea it was just a mile down the road with a dome on it. Teach hope to all, despair to none. You have to do your own growing no matter how tall your grandfather was. He has a right to criticize, who has a heart to help. When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's my religion. Let us discard all this quibbling about this man and the other man, this race and that race and the other race being inferior, and therefore they must be placed in an inferior position. Let us discard all these things and unite as one people throughout this land, until we shall once more stand up declaring that all men are created equal. My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and is not either to save or to destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it, and if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it, and if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slavery and the colored race, I do because I believe it helps to save the Union, and what I forbear because I do not believe it would help to save the Union. Two of my favorite things are sitting on my front porch smoking a pipe of sweet hemp and playing my Hohner harmonica. Democracy is government of, by, and for the people. No man is good enough to govern another man without the other's consent. Those who look for the bad in people will surely find it. Familiarize yourselves with the chains of bondage and you prepare your own limbs to wear them. Accustomed to trample on the rights of others, you have lost the genius of your own independence and become the fit subjects of the first cunning tyrant who rises among you. If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. I will prepare, and someday my chance will come. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking time. Honor is better than honors. I have never had a feeling, politically, that did not spring from the Declaration of Independence that all should have an equal chance. This is the sentiment embodied in the Declaration of Independence. I would rather be assassinated on this spot than surrender it. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. I see a very dark cloud on America's horizon, and that cloud is coming from Rome. I am not in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office. Labor is prior to, and independent of, capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor, and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital, and deserves much the higher consideration. It is the eternal struggle between these two principles, right and wrong. They are the two principles that have stood face to face from the beginning of time and will ever continue to struggle. It is the same spirit that says, "You work and toil and earn bread, and I'll eat it." Whenever there is a conflict between human rights and property rights, human rights must prevail. A new book is like a friend that I have yet to meet. Congressmen who willfully take action during wartime that damages morale and undermine the military are saboteurs and should be arrested, exiled, or hung. I have always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice. We cannot but believe that he who made the world still governs it. What is conservatism? Is it not the adherence to the old and tried against the new and untried? Let no feeling of discouragement prey upon you, and in the end you are sure to succeed. If the American people could learn what I know of the fierce hatred of the priests of Rome against our institutions, our schools, our most sacred rights, and our so dearly bought liberties, they would drive them out as traitors. Determine that the thing can and shall be done, and then find the way. You can't help the poor by being one of them. If you love something, set it free.